shelter from the easterly wind. A bit more in the way of cloud across more northeastern areas of Scotland, northeastern England, seeing some of that heavy rain into this evening. A continued chance of heavy downpours into this evening as well across parts of Wales and central England. We could also see some heavy downpours across the southeast coast through the early hours of Friday. So a risk of some very heavy rain, but also some drier weather. You can see some drier gaps in the weather overnight tonight, and that will bring more cloud as well. Temperatures still on the high side overnight in the mid to high teens. We'll still feel quite humid to start the day on Friday, but fresher air is moving in for Friday from the north and west, and that will bring quite a fine day for parts of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, though, across the UK, it's going to be a bit of a mixed day. A risk of showers, a chance of some heavy rain through the day wherever you are. This bringing a risk of thunderstorms, but also some brighter weather, and we'll feel quite warm. But also the winds will start to pick up too, so do keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M3 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 3 and 2 in Thorpe. The M4 westbound has a queue between junctions 10 and 11 in Wokingham. The A14 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 23 and 24B. In Scotland, the M74 northbound has 3 lanes restricted at junction 2 on Cambuslang Road junction. Across Wales, the A470 northbound at Nantgarv is congested. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Bristol Parkway and Gloucester, and East Midlands Railway services are running a temporary reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your views.
Just to be clear, my viewers are frustrated.
Your voice.
Lots of you guys getting in touch.
Your perspective.
Before these two will start fisticuffs.
Your issues.
What is the official party line?
Your concerns.
Do you agree with that?
Your show.
Are you keeping up? Good.
I'm so excited to be back this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Jubes & Co. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the gallery, tell Mark which camera he should be looking into. Okay, it's 9:30. Apparently, we're on air, and it is Thursday. We are apparently, yeah. Thursday, the 27th of August. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And this morning, 2 huge sets of data are about to be released.
Brits missing in Nepal, 33 so far, among hundreds missing after catastrophic flash flooding in Nepal. We'll have the latest from the rescue mission.
Good morning. A wet start across southern areas. That rain will push northwards throughout the morning, but there is a thunderstorm warning out for much of England and Wales. I will have all the details for you a little later on.
While Birmingham is swamped, torrential rain hits the second city, flooding the roads and leaving cars stranded as Britain braces for thunderstorms.
I've heard the depth of concern felt across the country about the potential release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
Killers staying in jail. So PC Andrew Harper's killers, Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, are set to be blocked from early prison release. Good.
Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are back. The Sussexes touched down in Birmingham. It's all happening in Birmingham today, but without close police protection.
No police protection, but they did have their 2 dogs with them, chickens staying in California. GB News tracks their plane, and we'll have all the very latest of their new life in the UK.
Meta's court payout. Meta has agreed to a giant £17 billion settlement in their social addiction trial in the United States. But get this, they've denied they've done anything wrong. Of course they have. Bereaved parent Victoria Hinks reacts.
Mark Zuckerberg does not want to go up against and see all the information that they have. So I'm very pleased. There's lots of lawsuits coming for these companies, lots of parents.
Well, it's a victory of sorts, isn't it, for those families in America, Miriam? £17 billion is a lot of money, but more importantly, they've got to change some of their programmes because while they say they've done nothing wrong, 17 billion sounds like they've done a lot wrong.
Absolutely.
It's an admission that those algorithms were deliberately luring young people in particular, addicting them, and we know, unfortunately, with tragic consequences because many suicides have been linked to what they saw on social media. So it's a start.
It is a start, and like you say, clearly settling out of court for that sum shows that they know they're in the wrong. But some of the changes that they've promised to make these apps safer for children, so for example, having a 1-hour daily limit, having a curfew at night, some of these are good ideas, but I don't understand who is supposed to enforce this because they're obviously not going to do this. It's not in their commercial interest unless some sort of law enforcement applies. They've already said that they're holding back 30% of the settlement until YouTube and TikTok do the same thing, which is fair enough from a commercial point of view. But who is going to make them do this? I don't understand.
And would it only apply in the states that took Meta to court?
Yes.
Because it was 29 states applied. Well, that's barely half of them.
Yeah, that's right. And I think they really do need to look at the algorithms. It's not just about time limit, it's about what content is being deliberately sent to children without them having signed up to it.
These poor kids.
I know.
They're better off without the internet. We want to know, as ever, what you think. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Making the news this morning, rescuers are racing to find survivors of a huge flash flood on the border between Nepal and Tibet. Entire villages, roads and bridges were washed away, killing at least 160 people. More than 800 are still missing, many tourists, including 33 people from the UK. Campaigners are warning that plans to heavily restrict children's use of Facebook and Instagram won't make them safer online. Those plans are part of a multi-billion-dollar court settlement by the platform's owner Meta, which has been accused of harming young people. The firm denies any wrongdoing. 2 people who died in a fire in Grangetown near Middlesbrough yesterday have been now named as Natalie MacDonald and her 7-year-old niece Valentina Foster. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder. Investigators say they're keeping an open mind but aren't ruling out links to organised crime. 2 of PC Andrew Harper's killers will be blocked from early release, it's reported, and kept in prison. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole were due to be released next year under the current rules. Reports say ministers will now change the law so some manslaughter offenders are no longer eligible. And a British patient has become the first person in the world to have a brain tumour removed while surgeons used live artificial intelligence. The AI analysed the operation in real time, helping doctors identify tiny structures in the brain and avoid any areas controlling vision. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Work and Pensions Secretary Pat McFadden is out and about today because there are major new figures being published to do with young people not in employment, education and training. And he says young people should not be blamed for the challenges they're facing when they try to find a job. If they try to find a job, Secretary of State.
Well, he says that purposeful activity, whatever that means, is the answer to solving the youth unemployment crisis. And he spoke to GB News Breakfast in the last half hour about the amount of NEETs in Britain.
The current figure is too high, and it's been too high for too long. Those figures went up by about 250,000 between the end of the pandemic and the general election 2 years ago. And the situation we inherited was there was no jobs guarantee in place. There wasn't the funding for the 300,000 extra work experience placements. And in fact, on top of that, youth apprenticeship starts had declined by 40% in 10 years. I am changing that too. I want to see 50,000 more youth apprenticeship starts in the next few years because apprenticeships are a great way into work for young people.
Well,
Yes, sorry, so Pat McFadden, Work and Pensions Secretary. He's solid, isn't he?
Well, he is one of the few to have kept his job in the new regime, isn't he? And he seems very well respected. And of course, those comments that he made about having meetings with Labour MPs where every single one of them wanted to know who he's going to tax more to fund their personal project.
Benefits.
And actually, I think that leak didn't do him any harm, not with the kind of mainstream of British politics anyway.
It was about actually so we could pay more benefits, wasn't it? Out of the horse's mouth. Well, GB News chief political correspondent Catherine Forster's with us in the studio. Catherine, I know you're still crunching through these numbers, the next set of numbers of the NEETs. Do we think they're going up?
Well, we don't know. I'm on the ONS website where they will appear, hopefully imminently. But we know that in the year, the 3-month period, January to March of this year, they were 1,012,000 16 to 24-year-olds not NEETs, not in education, employment or training. We don't know. We're about to get the figures for April to June. I don't expect there'll be a significant move either way, but these are absolutely dreadful, aren't they? 6 in 10 of this 1 million have never had a job at all.
How many?
6 in 10 of 1 million.
God.
So these 16 to 24-year-olds have never had a job at all. Now, go back to when we were young. I don't know about you, but I had a Saturday job. People did. Saturday jobs are increasingly rare. They're difficult to get. Employers are hesitant to take young people, and let's face it, the current government has not helped in many ways because they came in, they raised tax on national insurance.
These are the figures just coming through,
they have
Catherine,
just
so help
dropped
us out
in. So they've gone down a little bit. So now 981,000 young people not in education, employment or training. So that has gone down. It says April to June, this is an increase of 30,000 when compared with April to June last year, but down 30,000 on the previous quarter. Those figures are just over 1 million.
So not much change, really.
So not much change.
But also, doesn't that suggest that this is highly seasonal? Because, in other words, it's following the same pattern as last year. And you would expect that over the summer, more NEETs would get jobs, even if it's temporary. So
holiday camps and
it's a marginal change.
It's pretty awful. And Pat McFadden, the Work and Pensions Secretary, unveiling this jobs guarantee. The first people are beginning that. This is a scheme that the government is rolling out just in 6 areas at the moment, where the government will fund young people that have been unemployed for 18 months or more to get into work. They're given like a 6-month trial. The government funds that so employers can sort of try them out, because the longer you're unemployed, the harder it gets. It's a drop in the ocean, of course, but it's not nothing. Pat McFadden on GB News earlier saying hope is on the way, help is on the way. But I think there's multiple factors here. The pandemic lockdown took a terrible toll on young people. Mental health conditions have worsened. We know PIP claims have gone up significantly, the welfare bill rising significantly. So many young people. There are not the apprenticeships there. As Pat McFadden said, youth apprenticeships have gone down 40% over 10 years. These are not just failures from this current government. These are failures, long-term failures of successive governments to look after young people, partly, I would suggest, because they tend not to vote so much, and governments tend to focus on people who vote for them, i.e. we constantly hear about the triple lock. So there's so many young people falling through the cracks, and there's so many young people going to university, and there are not jobs at the end of it. They're coming out with loads of debt. AI's sweeping up these jobs. So I think a lot of people, and I have plenty of personal experience of this, so many young people struggling. And the government saying, Andy Burnham has said this morning, that young people are not lazy, that they are being let down.
Well, they are being let down, Catherine, and I think one of the underestimated features of this is that, yes, as you said, the NEET rate has risen quite substantially since COVID. It's actually been heading down till then and was hovering around 11% for quite some time, which is historically a very good figure. But of course, the other thing that changed in and around COVID was the so-called Boris wave, the mass immigration of hundreds of thousands of low-skilled workers. And the CSJ, the Centre for Social Justice, crunched the numbers on this earlier this year, and they found that for every one young British person employed in Britain since 2020, 27 non-EU nationals had been employed. And I think that that is the key to these figures. Actually, the jobs that used to be done by young British people are now being done by foreigners who are being recruited deliberately from abroad by shops offering visas. We're going to be coming on to this later in the programme. And yes, you could argue that our British young people should be trying harder to get those jobs. But the fact is those jobs are no longer available because they're being done by foreigners.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm old enough.
Done more cheaply.
Remember Gordon Brown, British jobs for British workers? This is not a new thing. All those promises of controlling migration and low-skilled migration being cracked down on, and yet we had this Boris wave. Sure, we got control through Brexit in terms of EU migration, but ex-EU from the rest of the world has absolutely gone through the roof. I know of many young people who've put out dozens and indeed hundreds of applications, and even often for jobs that they're overqualified for. And it is absolutely soul-destroying. And also, we've got people coming out with straight A's out of university that can't even get into medical school, you know, that cannot, our own British kids with straight A's who can't get places to become the doctors of the future. And we're importing doctors from countries that need them.
And likewise, nurses. The Royal College of Nursing saying there are 20,000 vacancies, and yet women who could be doing those jobs are often stacking shelves in supermarkets. How does this happen?
We were reporting on Barnstaple Maternity Hospital being closed because they can't staff it. These issues are all linked, aren't they, Catherine? And of course there is the benefits factor is something here. It's much easier now for young people to claim for mental health conditions, ADHD, but you can kind of understand why you might take the easy way out if those jobs just aren't there and it's so difficult to get one. Benefits is a second option, isn't it?
Yeah, and, you know, we know that there's influencers on TikTok and Instagram saying if you've got ADD, this is how you claim. And claims for things like that are soaring. And there is abuse of the system, of course there is, but it is very difficult. We've had a system that has focused on funneling kids to university. 50% Tony Blair wanted. That has backfired because the graduate jobs are not there. They're coming out with loads of debt, and the apprenticeships are so difficult to get. What about all the kids at university is not the answer? You know, I've got personal experience. I've got a kid in sixth form at the moment, not academic, doesn't want to go to uni. His state comprehensive said, well, just apply for university. I said, what about apprenticeships? Oh, well, they're very difficult to get, so just apply to uni. Well, no. What, 50,000 in debt to get any old degree with no job at the end of it?
And also, Catherine, this week there was a major report saying that graduate trainee recruitment has collapsed. There are more and more graduates now who cannot find work.
Yeah, because AI is coming along, and those jobs, good white-collar jobs, finance, there's so many things, AI is doing them. And jobs are just disappearing, much in the way, I suppose, that, you know, blue-collar jobs used to go. White-collar jobs are going the same way. So it's a bleak picture. But, you know, AI, if you become an electrician, if you become the trades, but we don't have enough training for that. And we've been spending so long importing labourers and whatever. It used to be from Poland, wasn't it? Germany have focused, you know, OK, the German economy is not doing well now, but training young people, degree apprenticeships, technical education. I mean, this is something that Andy Burnham talking a lot about, and I think will be welcome, but this is going to take a long time.
Burnham, I was telling him about, at her doctor's reception, she had a very long conversation with an AI receptionist. And it wasn't very successful, because they kept asking the same question and couldn't understand her accent. She's from Cornwall.
The AI couldn't understand her accent.
And it's not a strong, and it's not a strong Cornish accent.
That's not a problem I had foreseen.
She lived in London for 40 years.
Well, still ahead on Britain's Newsroom. Thank you so much, Catherine. Still ahead on Britain's Newsroom. A huge rescue mission is underway for at least 33 British nationals who were caught up in the deadly flash flooding in Nepal.
Yeah, and up next, Harry and Meghan, well, they're finally here. I bet the Prince and Princess of Wales are jumping for joy. We'll tell you why they touched down at Birmingham Airport with no security. Well, certainly no security provided by the taxpayer.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The weather's a bit more mixed across parts of Europe as well as in the UK. Intense thunderstorms across some central areas of Europe. Wetter weather affecting the west as well into parts of Portugal and Spain. That's thanks to low pressure being close by. Temperatures close to average here, but it's for southern areas of Italy towards the Mediterranean where the heat wave is ongoing. Temperatures in the high 30s, low 40s across parts of the Mediterranean. It will tend to cool off a little bit as we head towards the weekend, but remains dry and sunny. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In the public sector, buildings like schools and hospitals lack adornment, can be very clunky, can be very ugly, and they don't bear comparison with their equivalents, let's say, from the Victorian age. What do you think of that thesis?
I think, unfortunately, it's entirely correct. I mean, we can see it in some of the examples you talked about today. The one that really sticks in my mind, really there's two. Ones you see kind of every day, or certainly used to, post boxes and phone boxes, and in fact, for a third, water fountains. If you see the new water fountains in London, they're these strange plastic water droplets. We didn't used to build things like this. In fact, the water fountains themselves were once ornate. You had creatures in them, you had actual care taken over them.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Now, you don't want to miss this guest because she was once Britain's longest-serving female prisoner, dubbed the Black Widow. But Linda Galvey has since swapped life behind bars for life as a best-selling crime writer. My goodness. So you've done...
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about, because some people might not know about you, but you were dubbed as the Black Widow. Why is that?
I was dubbed as the Black Widow. The police said because all of the men in my life either ended up dead or in prison.
I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny.
No, it isn't. But that is me. And since I've been home, I mean, I went to prison for a crime I did commit. I got 7 years, and I deserved that sentence.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We have to go back to 1964, when Congress decided to name Washington's National Cultural Center in honor of John F. Kennedy, the president, of course, who had been recently assassinated. As a result, his name was emblazoned on the building. Today, the centre is home to a vast concert hall, as well as an opera house and a theatre. This is the site of cultural events, televised events, gala dinners. The centre is seen as a bastion of liberalism here in Washington, D.C. So what happened when Donald Trump became president for a second time in 2025? Well, in February, his second month in office, he decided to sack many members of the board of the centre behind me and replace it with his allies.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom, and we're live on GB News.
Well, this is a moment that Miriam has been so excited about. She's been counting the minutes, the hours,
Are we weighing the elephant
seconds. No, not that bit. Well, the elephant in the room, if you like.
Oh, very good, very good.
Harry and Meghan are back in the UK. Joy of joys. They touched down at Birmingham Airport at lunchtime yesterday. A private jet, of course, because of they're great echo warriors, aren't they? So of course they flew in a private jet. They couldn't possibly have come on a flight with all the hoi polloi. That wouldn't do, would it? Bearing in mind they're not working royals. And they had their own protection team. Joining us in the studio is GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Do we know where they're living?
No, but we do believe it's the Cotswolds. They flew into Birmingham Airport just before midday yesterday, as you say, in a private jet when Harry launched a travel company, Travelist, back in 2019. So some have accused him of hypocrisy.
Yeah, I'm accusing him of it.
Yes, I'm sure. But Harry would probably say that, you know, the media storm that's been created around him coming back to the UK means it was probably easier for all involved if he just flies on a private jet with Meghan and the 2 children and 2 security guards and 2 dogs rather than take a commercial airliner. We think Cotswolds because they lived there for around a year following their wedding. They then quickly left the Cotswolds following drones from paparazzi flying above the house. So I think they're going to try and avoid that issue again. But yeah, the 2 children were expecting to start school either next week or the week after. A private day school that's co-educational is what we believe. So they'll be going to school together, Archie and Lilibet. Prince Harry expects to carry out some engagements in a couple of weeks' time. Meghan, though, there's a huge question mark and a lot of reporting actually in the Daily Mail this morning, which is quite hard to verify, but there's claims that she's going to be splitting her time between the UK and California.
Because she's got business interests there, hasn't she? And she will need to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, her business interests are still there with the As Ever brand, although we think she might be trying to expand to Europe. Her mother, Doria, is still there.
Yeah.
Presumably, after all of the last 6 years, she wants to keep a foothold in California and Los Angeles and Hollywood at the very least.
And Harry can stay here because he hasn't got a job. He can look after the kids.
Well, exactly. Is he going to be a stay-at-home dad?
He hasn't got a job, has he?
Well, he's going to be a stay-at-home dad. No, I mean, well, no, he's. I don't think he's quite a neat, but yes, he's going to be carrying out some charity work. I suspect he's going to be more of a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
There's rumours that he always wanted his children to be educated within the UK, so they're aged 5 and 7 at the moment. So now it's probably a good time for them to come over. He wants to be the guy who stood on the rugby pitch watching his kid play rugby on a Saturday morning. Can't imagine Meghan's going to stand cold.
I imagine Archie's name is already down for Eton.
Probably. But then that's going to be interesting because then you'll have Prince George, possibly Prince Louis, and Prince Archie at Eton all at the same time. So at some point, William and Harry are going to have to talk.
Yeah, so maybe they'll get on really, really well. Who knows? Well, there's loads more coming up on Britain's Newsroom. We'll have the latest from Nepal, where at least 33 British nationals are missing after that fatal flash flooding.
Really grim, isn't it? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will move northwards throughout today. We're bringing a risk of thunderstorms to parts of Wales and England. Drier, though, further north, but we do have a weather warning out through much of today, particularly for parts of North Wales into central areas of England where the rain may last quite a while, bringing a risk of some surface water flooding where we get a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. There's also a chance of some heavy downpours, bringing a risk of thunderstorms across more southern areas into this afternoon. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, it's going to be a dry and bright day, particularly for more northwestern areas of these areas. Temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s here, so a very warm day indeed. It will feel humid as well into this evening once again. It's not until this weekend where we start to lose that humidity and warmth that you may have felt over the past few days. But a fine end to Thursday to come across more northwestern areas of Scotland with shelter from the easterly wind. A bit more in the way of cloud across more northeastern areas of Scotland, northeastern England, seeing some of that heavy rain into this evening. A continued chance of heavy downpours into this evening as well across parts of Wales and central England. We could also see some heavy downpours across the southeast coast through the early hours of Friday. So a risk of some very heavy rain, but also some drier weather. You can see some drier gaps in the weather overnight tonight, and that will bring more cloud as well. Temperatures still on the high side overnight in the mid to high teens. We'll still feel quite humid to start the day on Friday, but fresher air is moving in for Friday from the north and west, and that will bring quite a fine day for parts of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, though, across the UK, it's going to be a bit of a mixed day. A risk of showers, a chance of some heavy rain through the day wherever you are. This bringing a risk of thunderstorms, but also some brighter weather, and we'll feel quite warm. But also the winds will start to pick up too, so do keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M3 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 3 and 2 in Thorpe, with a lane closure in place. The M40 southbound is affected by a collision between junctions 2 and 1A in Uxbridge. And the A14 eastbound is also affected by a collision between junctions 23 and 24B. In Scotland, the A82 southbound at Bowling is partially blocked by a broken down vehicle. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Bristol Parkway and Gloucester, and East Midlands Railway services have a temporary reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway of the year so far.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this brand new McClure Fusion could be yours. We'll also boost your bank account too with a further £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like.
For a chance to win, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 o'clock on Thursday, the 27th of August. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Breaking news, the amount of young people out of work has dropped to just under 1 million as the Work and Pensions Secretary Pat McFadden says young Brits are not to blame.
But the difference now compared to a few years ago is that hope is on the way and help is on the way through the investment that we're making into work experience, youth apprenticeships and indeed, in the end, paid subsidised work for the long-term young unemployed.
And some more breaking statistics this morning. The latest immigration data shows that over half of asylum seekers arrived through illegal entry routes, with around 16,000 asylum seekers now being housed in migrant hotels, which is a much lower number than last year.
And there are Brits missing in Nepal. Around 33 nationals are among hundreds missing after catastrophic flash flooding hit Nepal. We'll have the latest from the ongoing rescue mission.
Yeah, officials have called this a tsunami from the sky, as the official death toll has now just been raised to 270. Still, 33 Brits are missing.
Good morning. A wet start across southern areas. That rain will push northwards throughout the morning, but there is a thunderstorm warning out for much of England and Wales. I will have all the details for you a little later on.
And Birmingham swamped. Torrential rain hits Britain's second city, flooding the roads and leaving cars stranded as Britain braces for thunderstorms.
I've heard the depth of concern felt across the country about the potential release of the killers of PC Andrew Harper.
Well, it seems they will stay in jail after all. PC Andrew Harper's killers, Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, will be excluded from their early prison release. Good.
And Harry and Meghan are back. The Sussexes touched down in Birmingham Airport, but without close police protection.
Meta's court payout. Meta have agreed to a £17 billion settlement in their social media addiction trial in the United States, but they say that doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. Really? Bereaved parent Victoria Hinks reacts.
Mark Zuckerberg does not want to go up against and see all the information that they have. So I'm very pleased. There's lots of lawsuits coming for these companies, lots of parents.
And a jumbo weigh-in. We're soon crossing over to Whipsnade Zoo, where all of the animals are having their health checkups. And the elephants will be hitting the scales soon.
Do you know, all this rain, you know what's going to happen? They'll say, oh, it's the wrong rain.
What type of rain?
It just drained off the surface because the ground's so dry, it won't make any difference to the reservoirs.
No.
There's always another reason.
Too much rain, wrong type of rain.
Yeah, the mains couldn't cope with it. You absolutely know it won't make any difference.
Do you think we have too much information now? Because certainly when I was a child and decades ago, before weather forecast apps, and maybe you watched the news at 10 once a day and got a rough idea of the weather, but other than that you just didn't really pay attention to it, and now we're just obsessed with red, yellow, amber warnings and all this other stuff.
Why do we have them? Why do we have an amber warning?
I'd quite like to go back to the surprise, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's mad.
Walk out your door and be shocked by the weather.
I have to say, when I opened the front doors for when it was raining, I think, yes, great, it's good for the garden. Pushed my two cats out, they were not so sure about it. Get in the wet, it'll cool you off. And I found another puddle and had a little dance in it.
I'll bring you some wellies tomorrow.
Yeah, great stuff.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about the weather and anything else we're discussing today. Send your views and comments to
GBNews.com/you'll say, but first, here are the headlines with a dry Sam Francis.
We think.
Thank you both, and a very good morning to you. Just after 10 o'clock, well, we start with news in Nepal, where we now know 2 British children, a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old, are among 33 people from the UK still missing. That's after deadly flash floods near the border with Tibet. Entire villages, roads and bridges have been washed away by the force of the water. Nepali police say 270 bodies have now been recovered, with more than 800 people still missing. Here, Prime Minister Andy Burnham says the government will do everything it can to support British nationals and is urging anyone in the region to follow local guidance and travel advice. But officials there say rain, mud and remote mountain terrain are making rescue efforts extremely difficult. And breaking in the last few minutes, the number of asylum seekers being housed in UK hotels has fallen by half in a year. Home Office figures released this morning show just over 16,000 people were in temporary hotel accommodation at the end of June. That is down from more than 32,000 a year earlier, and the lowest figure since the data was first reported in 2022. But figures today also show 38,000 people were detected arriving through illegal routes in the year to June. Small boats accounted for 33,000 of those. That's around 88%. Campaigners are warning that plans to heavily restrict children's use of Facebook and Instagram won't make them safer online. The plans are part of a multi-billion-dollar court settlement by the platform's owner Meta, after the company was accused of harming young people through addictive design features. The firm, though, denies any wrongdoing and says it will introduce stronger age verification, daily usage limits and nighttime blocks for accounts in the United States. Campaigners, though, say restrictions alone will not solve the problem, and they're now calling for tougher action across the whole social media industry. Here, 2 people who died in a fire in Grangetown near Middlesbrough yesterday have been named as Natalie MacDonald and her 7-year-old niece, Valentina Foster. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder, while investigators say they're keeping an open mind, but aren't ruling out links to organised crime. That fire happened close to the location of Saturday's fatal car crash, which killed 2 officers from the police force and 5 young people. 2 of PC Andrew Harper's killers will reportedly be blocked from early release and kept in prison. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole were due to be released next year under the current rules. They were sentenced over the death of PC Harper, who was dragged behind a car while responding to a burglary. But reports say ministers will now change the law so some manslaughter offenders are no longer eligible. The move follows widespread anger from Andrew Harper's family and the policing community. MPs are demanding action after 40 asylum seekers who went missing as children from hotels across the UK still haven't been found. More than 400 unaccompanied children disappeared from Home Office hotels in recent years before the High Court ruled their use was unlawful. Most of those children have since been located, but a parliamentary committee says it remains extremely concerned about those still unaccounted for. The Children's Commissioner says the disappearances represent an unacceptable failure, insisting ministers must now set out how they will stop it from happening again. And a British patient has become the first person in the world to have a brain tumour removed while surgeons used live artificial intelligence. Rhys Hibbert from Bedfordshire had a tumour removed at the National Hospital for Neurology in London, with doctors saying they used AI to analyse the live surgical feed in real time, helping highlight the areas surgeons needed to avoid. Mr Hibbert says the operation saved his sight and he's now back at work. Those are the latest headlines. For now, I'll be back with you shortly. Next, a look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Just gone 8 minutes past 10, the markets for you. The pound will buy $1.36 and €1.17. The price of gold this hour is at £3,387 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 10,791 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
This is a shocking story. 33 Britons, including a 13-year-old girl, are among hundreds still missing after a huge flood swept through Nepal. We're about to show you some very distressing images, so look at these scenes.
Look.
Huge floodwater and a lot of mud, Miriam, going down,
Absolutely.
Which would be very difficult to contain.
Absolutely devastating. The power of that water.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a tsunami, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, at least
overwhelming buildings completely.
Well, we're hearing that very high numbers of people have now been confirmed dead. Will Godley will shortly confirm that number, at least 270, we believe. And we understand that the cause of the flash flooding was a glacial collapse, which, of course, sent those huge amounts of waters down the mountain and buried entire villages in mud.
Yeah, well, Will Godley is with us now. Will, what more can you tell us?
Well, yeah, as you say, that death toll from police saying the numbers of people who have been recovered now stands at 270, and that number has been rising throughout the day today as rescue efforts are continuing. Officials have described these scenes as a tsunami from the sky, and those images that we just showed really do illustrate exactly what they're talking about. And I've seen videos too distressing to show on television of buses lined up in a row being swept away from the torrent and strength of this water. Now, this was caused, as you say, from a glacier, that a part of a glacier broke off. Now, this was 100 metres up in the Himalayas, up on the side of a mountain. Now, this bit of glacier fell off and smashed hundreds of metres down into the valley, releasing huge amounts of water, and that is what just then spread through these valleys on the border of China into Tibet and also in Nepal as well. And as we know, thousands, over 1,000 people missing, 644 of them tourists, according to Nepal's official figures, and 33 of them, they say, are Brits, including, as you say, a 13-year-old girl. And what's just been confirmed this morning is that there's also been a 14-year-old boy, a British boy, amongst those missing as well. Now, how these numbers, how these ages are coming out is that many of these tourists are undergoing these tours throughout Nepal into Tibet. It's a popular trekking route, climbing a mountain there, Mount Kailash, and these tours have said who are missing from their tours, and a number of different tours have been in touch with British media to say that they have British nationals confirmed missing. One of them, the manager of Alpine Eco Trek, said, "We feel so sad. We're just thinking about what to do next. In this moment, we're in deep pain." And many of them have similar stories of losing contact just moments after this flooding was reported to have taken place, just after 8:30 in the morning. Yesterday, that's 3:30 in the morning our time. And what's happening now, over 24 hours on? Well, rescue efforts underway. Now, the military have been drafted in to try and assist with these rescue efforts, but they're having to use helicopters because the roads infrastructure too damaged to really get to the areas that need rescuing. So helicopters being used at the moment, but also the issue they're facing is that there's, in some places, 2 metres of thick mud, rescuers having to get through in order to get to places where people need rescuing. Well, Andy Burnham has said these scenes are devastating. His thoughts with those affected. He says the government will do everything they can to support British nationals, but really these scenes absolutely devastating. And no doubt the fears are that these death tolls really rise.
You just know it's going to go sharply higher.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, the tsunami all those years ago was thousands, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very shocking. And as Will was saying, popular destination for European tourists. Even I know of schools that do treks there. So a very worrying time for the families that are missing.
But we will keep you posted.
We will. Thank you very much, Will Godley.
Now, moving on, the latest immigration figures published this morning show a 50% drop in asylum seekers living in hotel accommodation over the last year.
But that means that many more, of course, are living in dispersal accommodation in communities right across the country.
And what it certainly doesn't mean is that they've been deported.
No.
Unfortunately, the Home Office also revealed the number of people claiming asylum in the UK this year, in the year to June 26, fell by 21% compared with the previous year, with around 86,000 applicants recorded. Mark White, our favourite number cruncher, our Home and Security editor, he does the crunching for us. What can you tell us? What does it mean?
Well, in terms of hotel accommodation, Part of this is to be welcomed. Of course, there's been a huge controversy over the requisition of hotels right across the country. At its peak, between 400 and 500 hotels that were taken over by the Home Office to house asylum seekers. Now it's down to 16,022 in the year to June that are housed in asylum seeker hotels across the country. That's a 50% fall on the situation the previous year. However, the flip side of this, and we should say at its peak, there were 56,000 asylum seekers in hotels. That was in 2023. But the flip side of this is that the vast majority of asylum seekers who are having to be housed, accommodated by the state, are in dispersal accommodation. 73,000 asylum seekers in dispersal accommodation right across the country. And what that means
what does it mean?
Is HMOs, usually a house near you in a street near you, with very few kind of safeguards over those individuals. You know, at least in hotels, it was in a part of town you knew in your community that's the one location maybe where asylum seekers are. And if you were concerned, you could stay away from the area. There was some security around the hotel. Someone's in an HMO, maybe half a dozen or more asylum seekers are just in a house right next door to you potentially, which is of very great concern to, understandably, communities right across the country. One other aspect of, you know, it's HMOs, but also this government wants to increasingly use the likes of old military bases to put asylum seekers in. Well, we can update you on a couple of the figures on two of the most controversial military bases that we know about. The Wethersfield former RAF base in Braintree in Essex. There are now, in the year to June, we're told that as of June, there are now 744 asylum seekers in that one camp. And of course, anybody that knows Wethersfield, it's a tiny little community. And even going into Braintree, 744 people bored, young men, looking for something to do. Obviously, people in that area are concerned. And then the other camp that we know about, the former army base at Crowborough in East Sussex, that has now risen to 416 asylum seekers. And there, again, in that small village of Crowborough, where people are very concerned, they put in place their own patrols.
And we were talking about this week, you'll probably know the name of the camp where there was quite some consternation. They had their own NHS centre, their own gym, their own football pitch, their own mobile phones and a fleet of 17 minibuses because it was in quite a remote spot to take them into the local town.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is either Wethersfield or, you know, they're going to...
I think it is Wethersfield.
Yeah, but they're going to do the same up. The plans are on Linton on News in North Yorkshire. Again, put lots of migrants...
Why are they having their own mobile phones? Why are we paying for it?
Well... listen, these are all very legitimate questions about the money we're putting towards these asylum seekers. And should we be giving them mobile phones? Should we be giving them the kind of sort of living conditions that mean they've got gyms to go to, they've got breakout rooms, they can go and play pool in, or they can, you know, watch the latest Netflix movies on, or whatever it might be?
Why don't they pay for my sister's mobile phone? Sure, she'd be delighted.
She would.
I mean, it's just it's this thing that really sticks in people's craw, and if ministers don't understand that, that is what causes resentment.
Yeah, exactly. There's more stats here, but we've run out of time, so maybe next hour we can.
And of course, most of the people in these camps, Mark, are young, work-age men.
In the camps, they're all men, absolutely. And that's what worries people in these communities, where there are no systems in place to cater for them. You know, you've got a village shop at best in a lot of these communities.
It's terrible.
Mark White, thank you so much, and much more from you later on. We're now joined by the former Immigration Minister, Kevin Foster. Kevin, good morning. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Now, you will have heard Mark White, our Home and Security Editor there, talking about the asylum figures. But can we take a look at what you might call the regular migration figures, the number of visas being granted? I've just seen that nearly 250,000 people were given citizenship last year, the majority of them Indian and Pakistani nationals formerly. What can you see in the trends around regular migration or visas, if you like?
Well, it's good to be on, Mira, and have some excellent analysis from Mark on the asylum system. But in terms of the regular migration, some of the trends we've seen, and it's repeated from last year around citizenship, is a lot of people applying for it. Now, these are people who will have been here at least 6 years, possibly longer, who are converting basically something like indefinite leave to remain, a permission to be here permanently, into actually being a UK national. Now, some of that might be motivated by some of the debates we've seen recently about restricting access to certain support that from those with permanent permission to be here versus those who are British citizens. I remarked on it when Reform did their recent policy on social housing and talked about British-born rather than British citizens, perhaps a reaction to some of what we're seeing. And then in the work visas, yes, it's still a large number when people hear it, but it's lower than it has been in the past. Some of that reflects changes done at the back very end of the Conservative government around thresholds on income going up and jobs being reduced. But the really big one is health and social care, which is down 90%. That reflects basically care workers being removed from the visa, and probably now it only covering those coming directly to work for the NHS in things like nursing roles.
And in a sense, Kevin, of course the government is determined to get people out, these migrants out of these hotels, which are often horrible in the first place. But I think I just detect there's even more public unrest about this because people don't know necessarily where they're going to.
Yeah, Andrew, I think a lot of people, when they heard asylum hotels were going to close, thought, great, that means people are going to be moved out the country. Well, actually, that isn't the case. There's about 93,000 people receiving asylum support, according to the figures that have been published this morning. So you've only got to work it out. You know, to take off 16,000 who are in hotels, a couple of thousand in army bases, and even the new 3 that were announced, you'd only be talking about 3,600 new spaces. That means a lot of people are in high-mo accommodation. And also, one of the problems of using those types of shared houses is that's exactly the type of accommodation a lot of local authorities look for when trying to accommodate those they have a duty to, who are single men aged between about 18 and 35. So that's creating some real issues for councils as well, seeing so much of this accommodation going to there as well, alongside the concerns it inevitably brings about people being spread out, some of whom we have limited knowledge about the background of, and who, you know, the government felt they had to give them a leaflet to tell them not to rape women and sexually harass children, which speaks volumes to some of the concerns they have, even though that was a pretty crass way of dealing with it.
You won't be surprised, though, Kevin, that government document pamphlet outraged lots of people who watch and listen to GB News.
Well, it was a crass move, but it wasn't going to work.
No.
Well, absolutely. And we are yet to determine whether or not it was published in any other language other than English. So possibly a complete waste of time for all reasons. Kevin, thank you so much. Kevin Foster, former Immigration Minister.
We have a statement from the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who says...
A little over 2 years into office and the asylum backlog is down, the number of asylum seekers in hotels is falling, illegal working arrests are at record levels and deportations and returns are up markedly. This government is restoring control at our border and fairness to the migration system.
Just don't people really feel they agree with that?
I know. And also, even though the number of new arrivals might go down, the total number of arrivals is still going up.
Absolutely. Now, up next, PC Andrew Harper's killers, Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, will be blocked from early prison release. Good. We'll be going through that and more with our panel today, Cara Malone and Nigel Nelson, who I'm sure will find plenty to disagree with.
This is
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It is. Stop gossiping. It's 26 minutes past 10. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And as you've probably gathered, we have our panel in the studio who are all raring to go.
And you always know the noises off, though. They are always Carol Malone's.
Oh, are you blaming Carol?
Oh,
I'm blaming you.
Of
course. And Carol, he has got an earpiece telling him that we're about to start.
And you're still talking to me about
Exactly. It's not your fault.
No, she was... As ever, Malone was doing the talking, trust me. Nigel, who do you think was doing the talking, me or Malone?
Well, I could hear Carol.
Oh,
there we are.
There
we are. Now, let's get straight into PC Harper, because
I didn't know we were.
Well, it does seem that Burnham has got his way. He's making it absolutely clear he's not coming out. These killers are not coming out.
Right. Well, that is a disgrace. But didn't we always know that? Did we think?
Well, no, because it kept changing.
Well, no, but he was kind of fending off the inevitable, I think, by saying, you know, we're going to look at it, we're going to review it, we're going to whatever. But what is disgraceful is the fact that they've kept his family waiting this long. To put them through the torture of this. Yeah. How many weeks is it since it started? About 4 weeks ago?
They had to find the method to do it. I mean, fair dues that initially that they were coming out because that's where they drew the line to say that murderers stay in, but those convicted of manslaughter come out.
There, Nigel.
Well, but the whole thing was that when they realised that PC Harper's killers would come out, the question then was drawing the line differently. Well, that took time. So I think you have to forgive them for doing that.
Is it really? I think it's just a case of finding 2 police cells and keeping them in there. It's not a case, you know, you don't need reviews, you don't need investigations. You just need to look at the fact that
you can't make exceptions, Carol.
Well, I think that.
But I think you can have exceptions. I think when you're talking about people who kill policemen, you can, because there was a time in days gone by where if you killed a policeman, you got a much bigger sentence than
you do now.
A civilian.
The new laws will give you life now. But the whole thing is,
so you can make exceptions.
If you've got a prisoner release scheme, you need to draw a line. No. You need to make sure that people are above or below that line, whether they stay in or come out. So if you start making exceptions, the whole thing caves in on itself.
It really doesn't. This week, you know, we saw 2 policemen killed in the line of duty. These are people who go out every day. They don't know if they're coming home at night time. And say that the 2 officers who got killed this week are a perfect example of this, where we should make exceptions in these cases for people who kill them.
Yeah, but there are now. I mean, the law now would mean that if you kill a police officer, you will get life. I mean, that is a mandatory sentence.
Killers should not be let out because the law didn't cover them at the time.
But what I'm saying is that if you make an exception with them, you'll find within the system there are other exceptions too, and other people will come out.
Shouldn't we just separate out the 2 issues? Because you're absolutely right. You should get longer sentences. justice for killing police, soldiers, etc. Absolutely right, and that is the case. But I think Nigel's point is that we are in this dreadful situation with the overcrowding of prisons. Nobody wants us to be here. They have got to draw the line somewhere, and the problem with changing the rules in response to public pressure is you lay yourself open to doing that again and again and again.
It's not about public pressure. It's about decency. It's actually about it's a kind of morality. It's not just about public pressure. It's about a morality. People whose job it is to save our lives, if they get killed while they're doing that, there should be different rules applied to them. And certainly, these two men should never have been up for release in the first place.
I quite agree with that.
So I think you can make it.
And we have. This has been unedifying, Nigel. It's been going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Number 10 saying they can't be released. Prime Minister says they will. Well, maybe they can't. But now we know from the Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, I have to say I find deeply unimpressive. Yes. And he's not a lawyer. A former trade unionist, knows a lot about justice then, confirmed to police chiefs that specific categories of manslaughter, including unlawful act manslaughter, will no longer qualify for early discharge. That's how they're not coming out.
Which means that anybody else who committed a crime and a manslaughter at the same time won't be coming out either.
And nor should they.
No, that's right. I agree. Look, we don't want any of these prisoners to come out.
Make it retrospective in this case.
But we're stuck with a situation where we need to release 5,000 prisoners, otherwise the prison system collapses.
Release 4,998, Nigel. Leave the two who killed the policeman.
I still don't know why,
bars.
as well, in all this furore, that they still haven't moved on a bit with getting some of the foreign nationals in our prisons, where we do have return agreements.
We do.
But why aren't they getting them out?
Well, they are.
They're not. There's still
5,000
3,000 Albanians in our prisons. Kick them out.
5,000 were removed last year. Most of those were Albanians, but 5,000 were removed last year. We've got agreements with 110 countries. The problem we've got is what happens to the ones, and we're keeping about 1,500 here because we can't remove them, and that's down to the fact that their home countries won't accept them.
Well, they can with Albania, they can with Turkey, they can with India,
haven't done it.
and we've got these people
in
in our prisons.
India is a slightly different case. With India, the prisoner has to agree to being returned.
Should they have a say in it?
I mean, do you hear yourself? Do you hear the nonsense? People are going to be watching this screaming at you. Saying things like this.
Yes, OK, but blame the Indians. I mean, it's India who's...
Mr. Nice, would you like to go back, or wouldn't you?
Right. Gosh, I've lost my train of thought. All I know is that I'm looking forward to the next hour.
Yes.
But first of all, we've got your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Yeah.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 10:30. 2 British children are among 33 people from the UK still missing after deadly flash floods near the Nepal-Tibet border. Entire villages, roads and bridges were washed away by the force of the water. Nepali police say 270 bodies have now been recovered, with more than 1,000 still missing. Here, the number of asylum seekers being housed in UK hotels has fallen by half in a year to just over 16,000. The figures also show 38,000 people were detected arriving through illegal routes in the year to June. Small boats accounted for around 88% of those. This morning, Russia has issued a warning it could strike UK military targets if Ukraine uses British missiles to attack Russian territory. Moscow's accused Britain of playing with fire after the UK said Kyiv would be allowed to access classified technology to produce Storm Shadow missiles. An aunt and her 7-year-old niece have been named as the 2 people killed in a house fire near Middlesbrough yesterday. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder, with investigators saying they aren't ruling out links to organised crime. And 2 of PC Andrew Harper's killers will be blocked from early release and kept in prison, reports suggest. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole were due to be released next year under the current rules. But reports say ministers will now change the law, so some manslaughter offenders are no longer eligible. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup of all the top stories at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, the IT company Meta agrees to a $17 billion settlement in their social media addiction trial, but they deny any wrongdoing.
So they've done nothing wrong, but here's a cheque for 17 eye-watering billion. But we've done nothing wrong. We haven't addicted teenagers to our algorithms. What are they like, these companies?
Rich is what they're like. Well, this is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will move northwards throughout today. We're bringing a risk of thunderstorms to parts of Wales and England. Drier though further north, but we do have a weather warning out through much of today, particularly for parts of North Wales into central areas of England where the rain may last quite a while, bringing a risk of some surface water flooding when we get a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. There's also a chance of some heavy downpours, bringing a risk of thunderstorms across more southern areas into this afternoon. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, it's going to be a dry and bright day, particularly for more northwestern areas of these areas. Temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s here, so a very warm day indeed. It will feel humid as well into this evening once again. It's not until this weekend where we start to lose that humidity and warmth that you may have felt over the past few days. But a fine end to Thursday to come across more northwestern areas of Scotland with shelter from the easterly wind. A bit more in the way of cloud across more northeastern areas of Scotland, northeastern England, seeing some of that heavy rain into this evening. A continued chance of heavy downpours into this evening as well across parts of Wales and central England. We could also see some heavy downpours across the southeast coast through the early hours of Friday. So a risk of some very heavy rain, but also some drier weather. You can see some drier gaps in the weather overnight tonight, and that will bring more cloud as well. Temperatures still on the high side overnight in the mid to high teens. We'll still feel quite humid to start the day on Friday, but fresher air is moving in for Friday from the north and west, and that will bring quite a fine day for parts of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, though, across the UK, it's going to be a bit of a mixed day. A risk of showers, a chance of some heavy rain through the day wherever you are. This bringing a risk of thunderstorms, but also some brighter weather, and we'll feel quite warm. But also the winds will start to pick up too, so do keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M2 westbound is affected by a collision between junctions 4 and 3 in Chatham. The M3 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 3 and 2 in Thorpe. The M40 southbound is slow after a collision between junctions 2 and 1A in Uxbridge. The A14 eastbound is affected by a collision between junctions 23 and 24B. In Scotland, the M8 westbound is congested between junction 17E at junction 16 near Craighall. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Bristol Parkway and Gloucester, and East Midlands Railway services are running a temporary reduced timetable. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's 22 minutes to 11.
It certainly is. We're cracking through this programme. Meta, you know who they are. They've agreed to sweeping changes to Facebook and Instagram after settling a landmark US lawsuit involving families in 29 different states over social media addiction among children, which many families said led directly to children taking their own lives.
Well, the tech giant will pay up to $18 billion over the next 10 years after California and, as Andrew said, 28 other states accused it of deliberately designing addictive products that harmed young people.
So under the new rules, under 18s will be limited to 2 hours a day on the apps, with feeds blocked overnight and notifications switched off during school hours. How you enforce that?
Well, Meta has also agreed to bring in stronger age verification and tougher safeguards, and says it now wants rivals like TikTok and Snapchat to follow suit.
Well, we're going to talk to the media lawyer Jonathan Coate now. Jonathan, this is a huge settlement by Meta. This case was poised. We talked to you about it earlier this week, or was it last week? Very good to have you back on the programme. This case could have dragged on for weeks. Meta say this settlement, it doesn't suggest they've done anything wrong, but most observers will think, well, why did you write a cheque why are you paying up to £18 billion if all was well with their algorithms?
Well, that's absolute nonsense, as we all know. Just as newspapers settle the hacking claims without admitting liability, it's ridiculous. I mean, this though is absolutely seismic, and it's good. The fundamental problem with TikTok, the fundamental problem with platforms like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram is they're not regulated. Now, the linear TV is regulated, and therefore you have to have a license and you've got Ofcom overseeing you. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any practical way you can regulate social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. So what the Americans have done is taken a pragmatic view, is funny enough using 30-year-old legislation, so that's pre-social media legislation. They've come in and they've fined, well, there's an agreed fine effectively on Facebook and Instagram, and that is their way of regulating, so to speak, the content which young people are exposed to, and that is a wonderful and a very, very good thing. The question then is, and you mentioned it in your package, is are Snapchat, YouTube, TikTok going to follow suit? And interestingly, one of the conditions of the payment of some $18 billion, that 30% of it will be held back unless and until TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube follow suit. So it'll be interesting to see whether that brings a seismic change, not only in Facebook and Instagram, but also across the social media platforms as a whole.
Jonathan, it's not just about the money, though, is it? So you've agreed to some of these new regulations, self-regulations, I suppose, on the apps themselves. So whether that's children not being able to use the platform for more than an hour a day, or these curfews. But we have found it almost impossible in this country to force the big tech giants to implement changes to the platform like that. And it's still unclear how this might happen in the US. It's one thing getting money out of a company, but to enforce these new regulations seems to me almost impossible. Is there any realistic prospect that Instagram, Facebook and the others will actually change their platforms, given that it's not commercially advantageous for them to do so?
Well, I respectfully disagree, Miriam. I'm so sorry. This is the second time I've done this with you. I mean, and I think the answer is this litigation that's just completed. It's interesting to me that the case settled before Mark Zuckerberg gave evidence. And it may be that Mark Zuckerberg himself said, guys, I'm not sitting in a witness box being cross-examined. We need to write a check. But this legislation is still in place. This litigation has effectively cost Meta 10% of its market value, which is a substantial sum of money. I can't see any reason why, if they don't implement these changes, that there simply won't be other fines, and in that the precedent has been set. Presumably, these same 29 states who took on, to their great credit, Facebook and Instagram will take on TikTok and YouTube,
but I suppose
and they'll have to follow suit.
What I'm getting at here, Jonathan, is who will make the judgment over whether or not the safeguards have been met, I suppose. So, for example, in this country, we've had a lot of discussion over what age verification means. Does it mean ticking a box to say you're over 18, or does it mean a full facial scan to prove your age, or does it mean uploading your passport? Obviously, the tech companies are going to try and get away with as little as they can. Yeah. Parents are going to want as much as possible. Who will adjudicate this, and what will happen if the tech companies don't do what the parents want? I suppose that's what I'm getting at.
OK, well, two questions. Who will adjudicate it? If you're talking about the UK, we don't have the same statutes in place. We've got the Online Safety Act, but that is not as radical as the measures which have now been taking place. Well, I'd be really surprised if there aren't shouts in Parliament, well, hang on, guys, we should follow suit. We should have the same protection for teenagers as the Americans do. Now, as to who will make the judgment, well, that's what we have the state for. there should be there are obviously departments in those 29 states who've been monitoring what's going on in these social media platforms, and there's no reason why we shouldn't do likewise. And if there's sufficient parliamentary support, which I imagine there now will be, then what should happen is we have a new Online Safety Act for children, and that should take in the same provisions as the American legislation, which means that those platforms in the UK should enjoy the same degree of safety.
Interesting.
It is
well,
interesting.
we'll follow it very closely. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
And I wonder if Snapchat and the others will follow suit, or if they'll be taken to court as well.
I'm afraid I remain very sceptical. I mean, the
too.
mistake was made in the 90s when these platforms were designated platforms, not publishers.
I agree.
And it does allow them to get away with it a lot.
But GB News could not do a hundredth of what they do.
I mean, we were showing these images of the landslide and the flooding in Nepal, which were obviously horrendous, but nothing compared to some of the things online. And yet we have to issue a warning and say, this is distressing, look away now. And yet these companies, Meta, Instagram, can publish the most horrific material available for anybody to see. It's a two-tier system, Andrew.
It is. Now, up next, we're crossing over to Whipsnade Zoo for literally the jumbo weigh-in. There'll be some big beasts on display as the elephants are hitting the scale.
They should stop eating if they're about to be weighed, in my opinion.
Good luck getting them on those scales. But first, we want some of that holiday sun. Here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The weather's a bit more mixed across parts of Europe as well as in the UK. Intense thunderstorms across some central areas of Europe. Wetter weather affecting the west as well into parts of Portugal and Spain. That's thanks to low pressure being close by. Temperatures close to average here, but it's for southern areas of Italy towards the Mediterranean where the heat wave is ongoing. Temperatures in the high 30s, low 40s across parts of the Mediterranean. It will tend to cool off a little bit as we head towards the weekend, but remains dry and sunny. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I remember it vividly, the first dogfight over Biggin Hill, over New Addington. And this particular morning, the war started. My mother had asked me to go and get her a pint of beer from she wouldn't have drunk or anything, but she liked to drink on a Sunday morning. So she said, "Oh, son," she said, "go down and get me a bottle of beer, will you?" I mean, all was quiet in the Western Front. So I said, "Yes, Mum." So I'm going down the road now. I hadn't gone quarter of a mile, and all of a sudden there's this confusion, all this noise and that, zooming and banging. I thought, what on earth's that? And I looked up, and there they were, dogfighting over New Addington.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Joining us now is Head of Advocacy at Big Brother Watch, Jack Colson. Jack, interested to know your view on this. Why shouldn't I be able to wear my Meta glasses around?
Well, certainly there are times and places where Meta glasses might be of use, particularly for those with visual impairments. The technology really could be a breakthrough, but we see these as the tip of an iceberg. Meta's glasses have already been potentially linked to facial recognition technology, which really would be a stalker's charter. And we are operating in an environment where perpetrators of harassment feel safe to use this technology when really it's the public who ought to feel safe. So the government ultimately are going to have to explore restrictions on this kind of technology, and we're seeing civil society push back.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I have a real treat for you because I have found women Yes, and these women are badly behaved in Benidorm, and they've been here for... How long have you been here?
Since Tuesday. Yeah, just a week this time. Normally we do 2 weeks, but just a week this time.
And whereabouts in the UK are you from?
From Surrey.
Surrey. Manchester. Salford.
Doncaster.
Quite the mix, I would say. Are you getting ready to go into the Strip?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, why not? It's iconic.
We do culture first and then the Strip. That's the right way round, right?
If you say so. Will you be out on the Strip?
Most definitely, yet again.
And what's so attractive about it?
The Strip or the culture?
The Strip.
What am I allowed to say on TV?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Wow, this is a fascinating story because there is literally, and it is literally a huge operation at Whipsnade Zoo as its residents take part in the annual weigh-in.
Well, among those stepping onto the scales are an endangered Asian elephant calf, 5 North African lion cubs, and the southern white rhino calf called Mick.
Well, GB News reporter Isabel Fekulak joins us now from the zoo, and I hope she's keeping a healthy distance from these elephants.
Yes, good morning to you both. I'm here at Whipsnade Zoo for the annual weigh-in. As you say, a huge operation, a big day for zookeepers and for the animals. And there's quite a few new animals who will be taking part in their first annual weigh-in today. 5,940 animals were either born or hatched here at the zoo this year, so it's their first time taking part in the annual weigh-in. Of course, it can be quite a challenge to get these animals onto the scales, and there are certain methods that zookeepers will have to use to maybe bribe them with a bit of food. And today it is raining, as you can see, which for some of the animals, particularly we were with the cheetahs earlier on, it took them a bit more time to want to come outside this morning. You can see now that the elephants behind me, now the keepers had put some cardboard boxes in front of them there that had the lists of their weights down. So we had all of their individual weights, but within just a few moments they actually destroyed the cardboard boxes. You can see the little calf Anu there playing around with some of the leftover bits of cardboard. So a wonderful thing to see. Look, oh, just such a cute little baby elephant there. And I'm joined now by Olivia, who is the elephant keeper here. Olivia, can you introduce us to all the elephants here behind?
Yeah, so we have Auntie Luca, we have Mum Donna, we've got baby Anu, of course, and his big sister Nang Paya, and then Grandma Kaylee. And then his dad and Paya's dad, Ming Young, just lives across the paddock.
And obviously it's quite a huge operation, particularly with the elephants. How difficult is it to get the elephants onto the scales?
It's not actually too difficult. All our elephants are really well trained, and they are involved in what's called positive reinforcement training. So by coming onto the scales, they get a nice little treat. We have what's called a training biscuit that we've created, which is loads of like hay and nutrients. It's just really yummy for them, a bit like a dog biscuit really, and they love coming onto the scales for that. We've got like metre-long target sticks as well to keep ourselves nice and safe whilst we're training them. But yeah, it's quite fun. They have the choice whether they want to go on the scales or not. If they don't want to do it that day, we'll just try again another day.
And what do you do with the data that you collect on the annual weigh-in?
So all of that can go on our zoological information management system, otherwise known as ZIMS. This can be shared across the world for all collections to see the weights, and then it can be used for our vets as well for things like medications for our animals, because of course that's all due on like what weights you need and things like that. But yeah, it's all shared with conservationists out in the wild as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Olivia. Wonderful to see how the operation actually works here. Of course, there's so many different species. We've been with the southern white rhinos this morning, that calf there, Mick, and we saw them. We've seen the cheetahs, we've seen the giraffes. It's a great operation, and there's so much work that goes into it from the people here at Whipsnade Zoo. A brilliant day for them and for the animals here at Whipsnade Zoo for the annual weigh-in.
Very nice, Isabel. That's Isabel Fakulak at Whiptonator. I haven't been to a zoo for years.
No.
Makes me rather sentimental.
Well, the elephants clearly don't mind the rain. So
no. Now, up next, we're going to have the latest from Nepal, where 33 British nationals are among hundreds missing after catastrophic flash flooding. This is Britain's Newsroom, favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will move northwards throughout today. We're bringing a risk of thunderstorms to parts of Wales and England. Drier though further north, but we do have a weather warning out through much of today, particularly for parts of North Wales into central areas of England where the rain may last quite a while, bringing a risk of some surface water flooding when we get a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. There's also a chance of some heavy downpours, bringing a risk of thunderstorms across more southern areas into this afternoon. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, it's going to be a dry and bright day, particularly for more northwestern areas of these areas. Temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s here, so a very warm day indeed. It will feel humid as well into this evening once again. It's not until this weekend where we start to lose that humidity and warmth that you may have felt over the past few days. But a fine end to Thursday to come across more northwestern areas of Scotland with shelter from the easterly wind. A bit more in the way of cloud across more northeastern areas of Scotland, northeastern England, seeing some of that heavy rain into this evening. A continued chance of heavy downpours into this evening as well across parts of Wales and central England. We could also see some heavy downpours across the southeast coast through the early hours of Friday. So a risk of some very heavy rain, but also some drier weather. You can see some drier gaps in the weather overnight tonight, and that will bring more cloud as well. Temperatures still on the high side overnight in the mid to high teens. We'll still feel quite humid to start the day on Friday, but fresher air is moving in for Friday from the north and west, and that will bring quite a fine day for parts of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, though, across the UK, it's going to be a bit of a mixed day. A risk of showers, a chance of some heavy rain through the day wherever you are. This bringing a risk of thunderstorms, but also some brighter weather, and we'll feel quite warm. But also the winds will start to pick up too, so do keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's brand new and it's the big one.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could win this brand new 4-berth motorhome. But that's just the beginning, as we'll also give you a whopping £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend, save, or just to use to enjoy adventures in your new motorhome.
For a chance to win, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It is 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 27th of August. We're live across the United Kingdom. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the latest immigration data published this morning shows around 16,000 asylum seekers are being housed in migrant hotels. Meanwhile, over in Norfolk...
Well, in terms of the illegal arrivals, we can confirm now hundreds more migrants are in the water heading towards the UK, despite horrific conditions in the English Channel.
Well, as part of all of the Home Office's plans to try and manage those people coming to this country, of course, their proposals to use military sites across the country haven't gone down well in communities. We're at the site of RAF Barnham, where there's plans to house over 1,000 asylum seekers.
And breaking news, the amount of young people out of work drops to just under 1 million. As the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, says young Brits are not to blame.
But the difference now compared to a few years ago is that hope is on the way and help is on the way through the investment that we're making into work experience, youth apprenticeships and indeed, in the end, paid subsidised work for the long-term young unemployed.
And there are Brits missing in Nepal. 33 British nationals are among hundreds missing after catastrophic flash flooding hits Nepal. We'll have the latest from the rescue mission.
And in the last few minutes, to assist with that rescue mission, Britain has offered and pledged £5 million to assist with the recovery efforts and offered to send emergency responders to Nepal.
And the summer holidays may be almost over, but GB News' Doogie Beattie is hitting the road for one last Great British adventure.
Yes, we've crossed the Irish Sea. We're now in Blackpool. Is it kiss me quick hats and straw donkeys or a real family resort? We'll have more throughout the programme.
I used to go to Blackpool a lot because the party political conferences were always there, but the Winter Gardens became a bit dated and tired and too small. But it was always great fun. And often you'd arrive at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. The pubs were rammed.
10 o'clock on a Saturday morning?
Yeah.
What, with Conservative Party aficionados?
And there was music, and it was a fun town, Blackpool. It's rather sad to see the way it's declined. They invested a lot of their effort and energy into getting a super casino, which was one of the ideas of the Blair government. But the super casino didn't go to Blackpool. It went to Manchester. And then Gordon Brown became Prime Minister, cancelled the project anyway. It offended his Presbyterian views.
Oh, but it did, yeah. Although we have been doing this series, haven't we, throughout the summer about staycations.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, the staycation was very, very attractive because we're having this incredible heat wave, weren't we? And amazing sights on British beaches. But I'm not sure the rain is quite so enticing, although there's nothing more British than a picnic in the rain, is there?
Oh, I quite agree. I
hope Doogie's getting some soggy sandwiches.
I'm looking forward to this rain. We'd like to know what you think. As ever, send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Thank you both, and a very good morning to you. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story this hour: two British children, a 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy, are sadly among 33 people from the UK still missing after deadly flash floods near the Nepal-Tibet border. Entire villages, roads and bridges were washed away by the force of the water. Police there say 273 bodies have now been recovered, with more than 800 people still missing. Prime Minister Andy Burnham says the government will do everything it can to support British nationals, pledging a multi-million-pound package of support. It's urging anyone in the region to follow local guidance and travel advice. But officials say rain, mud and remote mountain terrain are making rescue efforts extremely difficult. Here, the number of asylum seekers being housed in UK hotels has fallen by half in a year. Home Office figures released this morning show just over 16,000 people were in temporary hotel accommodation at the end of June. That's down from more than 32,000 a year earlier, and the lowest figure since the data was first reported in 2022. But the figures also show 38,000 people were detected arriving through illegal routes in the year to June. Small boats accounted for 33,000 of those. That's around 88%. Well, breaking news emerging in the last hour or so that another home has now been rammed in Middlesbrough amid a growing concern of possible organised crime links on Teesside. Police say the property was empty at the time and no injuries have been reported. Officers are now investigating whether the latest incident is linked, as I say, to that wider organised crime. It follows the deaths of 7-year-old Valentina Foster and her aunt, Natalie MacDonald, in a house fire being treated as murder. The fire happened close to the location of Saturday's fatal car crash, which killed 2 police officers and 5 young people. Russia has said it could strike UK military targets if Ukraine uses British missiles to attack Russian territory. The Kremlin has warned today that British targets inside and outside Ukraine could be hit in response to Ukrainian strikes using British weapons. Moscow accused Britain of taking a hostile stance and claimed that London risks taking the conflict to a new level. It comes after the UK said Kyiv would be allowed access to classified technology to produce Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles capable of striking deep inside Russia. And campaigners are warning that plans to heavily restrict children's use of Facebook and Instagram won't be enough to make them safer online. Those plans are part of a multi-billion-dollar court settlement by the platform's owner, Meta, after it was accused of harming young people through addictive design features. The firm denies any wrongdoing and says it will introduce stronger age verification limits and nighttime blocks on accounts in the US. Campaigners say restrictions alone, though, will not solve the problem, and they're calling for tougher action across the whole social media industry. Those are the latest headlines. For now, I'll hand you back.
Get that man some water. Poor Sam, choking on the headlines. Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We are not choking at this point, but you're watching with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
The latest immigration figures published this morning show a 50% drop in asylum seekers living in hotel accommodation over the last year. So should we all be delighted about that? I'm not sure we should.
Because it just means, doesn't it, Andrew, that many more asylum seekers now in dispersal accommodation in communities right across the country.
And it comes as GBNews can confirm that there are hundreds of illegal migrants crossing the English Channel right now, despite horrendous weather conditions far out to sea.
Well, we're joined again by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who can bring us up to date, Mark.
Yes, more illegal immigrants to add to the number who are being held either in asylum hotel accommodation or in what they talk about as dispersed accommodation. What they effectively mean by that is HMOs, a house and a street near you. So in terms of what's happening today in the Channel at the moment, 87 illegal immigrants have already crossed, brought into Dover Harbour. Another Border Force vessel, Defender, has just arrived into Dover Harbour with dozens more migrants from a French escort that made it to UK waters. You're looking at the shots there of the Border Force vessel Ranger that arrived a little earlier with those 87 illegal immigrants on board. And what we're told is amongst at least 5 of these migrant dinghies that were launched by people smugglers today, there is a mega dinghy among them. And a mega dinghy, of course, as we reported last time, can carry a very significant number of migrants. 230 was a record set just a few weeks ago when a mega dinghy crossed the English Channel, smashing the previous record of about 170 plus who'd crossed, but 230. So we don't know about this mega dinghy. It might not be anywhere near that number, but it's out there anymore. And by the end of today, there'll be at least 200 or 300 more of these illegal immigrants to add to the asylum accommodation list, which at the moment, we're told from the Home Office, has fallen 50% in terms of those being accommodated in hotels, down to 16,022. But that does mean, as I was alluding to, the vast majority, 73,000, are now being housed in dispersal accommodation in a street near you in HMOs and alike. Also, we can bring you up to date on the situation with military bases, because the government
just step in there. Some of that dispersal accommodation, ordinarily, would it not go to people on a housing waiting list?
Well, not an HMO as such.
Right.
What's happening is landlords are looking at ways of maximising the profit for them. So, yes, you could certainly argue that a house that would be available for someone, a working Brit to rent is suddenly not available because it's taken out of the market and it's given over to a government agency instead, and instead of, a nice little flat for a couple of people, it turns into an HMO for 8 illegal immigrants or asylum seekers, as they will be once they started claiming asylum.
So we understand that the inflow, if you like, of asylum seekers, migrants into the UK is down. That is certainly the case. Still numbers far, far too high. But what about the outflow? The government is claiming that deportations and removals are up. But is this really reducing the asylum backlog, or is this just voluntary quitting of visa overstayers?
It's, a microcosm, really, of the very significant numbers, of course, of illegal immigrants in this country, and most of them are illegal and living in the black economy. We don't know about them. Estimates of 1.5 million people. We don't know for sure. But in terms of returns, as you mentioned there, 41,000 illegal immigrants and foreign national offenders were returned in the year to June. That is an 8% increase in the previous year. 9,700 of those were enforced returns. So the vast majority, 31,000, were people who just went voluntarily. And the criticism has always been that, look, you just go for the low-hanging fruit. You go for those that are not going to stand any chance of being able to remain here. They can't claim asylum or whatever. And sometimes are given a bung of a few £1,000s just to go. And many people do opt for that process of getting on a plane and going. So only 9,700 were actually forced out of the country. And in terms of foreign national offenders, we've heard so much about this with more than 10,000 foreign national offenders in our prisons currently. 6,000 foreign national offenders were sent back overseas in the year to June.
Mark White, thank you so much for that update.
Right, and we can now go to talk to GBNews national reporter Jack Carson, who joins us from RAF Barnham in Suffolk. Jack, what's going on there, Jack? Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, there's been protests here over weeks since the plans were announced that this MOD site would be used to house asylum seekers. We understand that it would be 1,250 from the point at which the Home Office say that it's these that are needed to house them. Of course, this makes up one of 3 other sites across the country, and we've seen here, particularly around Thetford and Barnham, the protests and the outrage from the local people about this. Let's give you a protest once again here today. We've got one sign saying "Stop the boats, protect our women and kids." Another saying down here, "Democracy is dead." Of course, the Home Office say that these sites would be they would have specialists and experienced security providers permanently on site. But let's get a sense from the leader of Suffolk County Council, Michael Hadwin. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Why is this site so inappropriate to use?
It's really simple. So this is a former RAF site. It's now being used as a police training base for the most part, but it's outside the community of Barnham, which is about 600 people, meaning that when they move over 1,200 migrants here, that will double the size of the village. The village doesn't have any shops, no amenities, so what's going to happen is these undocumented men are either going to have to walk up the road to Thetford, or they're going to be bussed into the local area, meaning that you're going to have people who we don't know their history, don't know their background, coming around our communities, and this is a real public safety issue. They should not be here in the first place, but we definitely do not want them in Suffolk.
But the Home Office, as I was just saying, says that there will be specialist and experienced providers of security service permanently on site, as well as security systems like CCTV monitoring. Should that not provide the community with some reassurance of the safety of them with these people being housed here?
So that's really lovely on the site, but they can leave the site whenever they wish. When I met with the government to speak about this, they said they have the right to leave the site. They said they have the right to abscond if they want to. If they know someone in one of the communities, they can just leave the site and never return. The Home Office said they can't stop that. So when you have 50, 100 men being bussed into local communities like Thetford, Ipswich, Dearce, they're not going to be policed. There won't be minders with them. That is not security. They're putting people at safety at risk.
So what conversations have you had with the Home Office? Because we've heard a lot on different sites around accusations of a lack of consultation and a lack of not understanding local people. But of course the Home Office will say that they are under pressure to house these people. They've made a commitment to close asylum hotels. So they've got to go somewhere. Why are military sites then not appropriate?
Well, I think this is the thing with the government. I wish that they had been honest with the consultation. I wish they had spoken to us. What happened was they told us 5 minutes before they made the press release they were going to use this site. At the meeting, they made several assurances, which they have now lied about. Firstly, they said this site would not be voted on until January. That was a lie. They're now trying to make it happen in autumn. They said that this site would be for 1,250 men. We are now hearing that this site not only going to be permanent, but there could be thousands more men put in this site. It's not 1,250. We could be seeing 2,000, 3,000. They are not acting in good faith. And when I raised with them that we have a Barnham primary school just down the road, and I said, what security measures are you thinking about for them? Their reply was, we haven't thought about the primary school. The government have lied, they are not acting in good faith, and we as the local government have to be able to secure people's safety in Suffolk. I am saying now, if this site opens, we will not be able to guarantee the safety of the public, and that is a failure from the state.
So what power do you have? What are you doing to represent your constituents here, whether it's taking action, whatever it is, what are you doing?
So we're working across the board with the police, we're working with other councils in the area, making evidence claims to the government to show them why this is inappropriate. But one of the main things we've said is that we will have to look at carefully the services that are provided. What shocks me the most is that when you look at what this site will get, which is NHS dentists, we don't have any NHS dentists in Suffolk. So these people will have better services than residents do who have paid taxes all their lives. They'll have GPs on site. The last time I tried to get a GP appointment, I was waiting a long time. So we are looking carefully at the evidence of why this site is inappropriate, and the answer is this site is not the right one. I don't know what the government are going to do. The thing they should do is withdraw from the ECHR and deport them, but since they don't have the guts to do that, they're going to have to think of another solution because they're not coming to Suffolk.
Right, thank you so much, Councillor Michael Hadwin, for joining us here this morning. That's the leader of Suffolk County Council. Of course, protests going on here today at RAF Barnham will be live throughout the afternoon.
Thanks for Jack. That's a very angry local community there, and I think they're just going to get a lot angrier.
Absolutely. I mean...
And who can blame them?
No. How can you tolerate the arrival of that number of people who are absolutely not going to integrate right on your doorstep with no security controls and knowing, unfortunately, the kind of situation in the countries they come from?
Yeah.
It's just astonishing that they're even trying it.
And increasingly, I'm afraid, some of them, only some of them, being involved in some pretty hideous crimes.
Well,
often against women.
That's right, and there's still a data blackout, of course, on the full extent of foreign national criminality because the government doesn't want to publish the data.
I think I think that's going to run that one because the government saying it will go to court to prevent this information being released is pretty staggering.
Well, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has said a little over 2 years into office and the asylum backlog is down, the number of asylum seekers in hotels is falling, illegal working arrests are at record levels and deportations and returns are up markedly. This government is restoring control at our border and fairness into the migration system.
Do you think who writes these things actually believes it?
I don't think that's necessary in politics, is it, Andrew?
It's just ridiculous.
I know what you mean.
I mean, It's just like they're in another world.
Yes, and they very rarely address the actual question.
That's right.
It's just something to say.
Those people in that community will have heard that and thought, what the hell?
That's right. And also, yeah, anyway, we should probably move on. But I think we should do a segment one morning about rights of reply and whether or not they should better address the issues at stake.
I certainly think we should. Now, 33 Britons, including a 13-year-old girl among hundreds still missing after an absolutely massive flood swept through Nepal. We're about to show some distressing images. Look at these scenes now.
Look. Look.
So we're just seeing those scenes of that enormous body of water flooding down the hillside into villages.
Completely overwhelming those buildings.
And we understand that at least 273 people have now been confirmed dead. And the cause of the flooding appears to be a glacial collapse, which triggered those flash floods and buried entire villages in mud. And joining us now is GBNews' national reporter, Will Godley. And I was reading, Will, that the width of the piece of glacier that collapsed was over 600 metres. We're talking an enormous volume of ice.
Absolutely huge, and of course weighs a huge amount as well. Fell down some few hundred metres down the mountainside high up in the Himalayas and landed in what was a glacial lake, and it's that water that then effectively did cause what some people have described as a tsunami. Locals there in Nepal calling it a tsunami from the sky, wiping out entire villages. And it's those videos that we're showing now on screens that people just have been absolutely shocked by the scale and power of the water wiping away entire villages, and in that video there, buses, and it's absolutely shocking. Andy Burnham was asked about this morning, the Prime Minister. He says these are scenes we've never seen the like of before, and it's perhaps part of the reason why he's wanted to offer support, announcing this morning that Britain is pledging £5 million to help with the response effort and has offered to send emergency responders to Nepal to help deal with these devastating flooding. And they've also deployed consular to support staff to the region so that any Brits in the area can access support 24/7. They said now at the moment at least 270 bodies have been recovered, and we've also heard from the Nepalese army who are leading on the rescue efforts. They said today they have rescued 350 people, so perhaps that's some positive news to come out of this. There are people being rescued alive, but there are still over 1,000 people missing, many of them tourists, including, as you said in your introduction, 33 Brits, among them a 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. And many of these Brits were there in Nepal trekking in the Himalayas, of course, an incredibly popular place to go trekking, and in particular the route that many of these were on was trekking to Mount Kailash. Now this is a mountain in Tibet. It's a very popular mountain and it's a pilgrimage for those in the Hindu religion, and many people, many tour operators offering these treks, and so that's where many of those missing would have been at the moment. One person who has spoken to Reuters. Now, he is someone who was rescued from the floods in Nepal. This is someone, a 68-year-old man in Nepal, who's called Keshav Prasad Baral. And I just want to say a little bit of what he said, because it gives an eyewitness account of what he went through. He said it was a huge gush of mud coming straight towards us. We're talking about it like it's water, but gush of mud, thick mud coming straight towards him. He said it went higher and higher into his home. He tried to, very sadly, grab his wife's hand, but the water, the mud swept her away as he was trying to get higher into his home. He said the mud reached the top floor of his home for about an hour. It was 4 or 5 hours later when a helicopter came to rescue him. His wife is still awaiting rescue, as so many other people are in Nepal, with that rescue mission underway at the moment.
Yeah, well, Godley. And of course, that number of people that have been confirmed dead will surely rise substantially, given that all the villages
I'm just looking at the death toll in the Bali tsunami and earthquake. It was 228,000 people died.
Goodness me. And around 50...
Because it was just so destructive, the water.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal, isn't it? And I'm reading between 50 and 60,000 Brits visit Nepal every year, so there may even be more people there that we don't know about.
Well, thanks for that. Up next,
you, Will.
Miriam's favourite subject, her favourite couple, they're back, Harry and Meghan. The Sussex have touched down in Birmingham without close police protection.
I don't mind them at all, I just don't like talking about them all the time.
No, I can't stand them. We'll be going through that and more with Nigel Nelson and Cara Malone. And I don't think you'd call Cara Malone a fan of Meghan and Harry.
Probably not. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It is 11:27. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
We've got the panel with us again, senior political commentator Nigel Nelson and the journalist and broadcaster Cara Malone. Now, Malone, migrants, ECHR, what's going on?
Well, this is a story today. The EHRC, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, is saying that...
Created by the Blair government.
Yeah, is saying we're not giving migrants enough money. They're not getting enough. We're not looking after them properly. I mean, you know, this is going to enrage people. You know, it's ludicrous. This is, you know, we spend £4 billion a year just to house illegal migrants in this country. That's 11 million quid a day.
Yeah.
And the EHRC says we're not giving them enough money. Apparently £49.18 a week is not enough. But bearing in mind they get free mobile phones, free food, free everything, access to gyms,
free gym,
football pitches, they have little days out.
In which case they're getting £8.86.
Yeah, but do they need... What do we need to give them money for now? To go clubbing on a Friday night? I mean, what...
Well, hang on. £8.86 a week for being catered for doesn't actually buy you very much.
Well,
so...
you don't need very much. You're not entitled to very much more at the point.
And even if they're catering for themselves, that's what the 49 quid is for. So if they actually have to look after themselves, that's what they get.
This is people who are being in hotels and all the rest.
No, this is people who are not provided meals. If you're not provided meals, you get the nearly
£49
a week.
Yes.
If you're not provided meals.
Yes.
Yes.
If you are provided meals, you still get the £9
Why are
a
we
week.
provided
But
meals?
obviously, you don't have to buy any food.
I'm not going to feel sorry for them, actually, because if they came here illegally, they shouldn't be here to start with. And yet we're still giving them places to stay. We're looking after them, healthcare, education, all the rest of it. And
the alternative is what?
And the alternative, we stop them coming in.
Deport
That's the alternative.
But given that we can't stop them coming in, because no one's come up with a decent plan to do that.
We did. We could say the dread word again, Nigel.
Rwanda.
Yes. Well, there was never... Well, we go through this constantly, but there was never any evidence Rwanda would have worked.
They didn't try it.
I appreciate that...
You can't say it didn't work if you didn't give it a go.
No, I appreciate you can't say for certain Rwanda wouldn't have worked, but there was no evidence. And public policy...
No evidence. You haven't tried it.
Public policy should be based on, especially when you're about to spend 10 billion quid, public policy should be based evidentially.
But everything they tried so far hasn't worked, and still hasn't.
Well,
try something else.
And we're spending billions keeping them here. And it's causing all sorts of...
so far is reduce the numbers, so at least they've been able to do that.
But it's not just about the money, is it, Nigel, the cost of it? It's what it's doing to communities, social cohesion, the fear it's creating, people who no longer feel more and more strangers in their own villages and towns. That's one of the really down negative sides of this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about the fear thing, but do you not think the fear bit is overblown?
No.
No, I think people hear these terrible court cases involving young men who've done terrible things to women, and they think these men have come to this country with medieval attitudes to women.
I mean, you're more likely to be sexually assaulted by a white British man than you are by a migrant. This is not to defend what migrants are doing. There's some horrible cases out there. But when you look at the figures, and I know that the Ministry of Justice don't put out detailed figures, which they ought to, but when you look at what they do put out, you're talking about sex crimes in this country committed 14% of them by migrants or people who are foreign born.
It's not just sex crimes,
and they are 19% of the population.
It's all sorts of crimes, isn't it? There was a story in the papers this week about a village in France just before they come over here. This village says it's been taken over by migrants, and it's not just the sex crimes. It's these people walk into shops and they take stuff because they know people are scared of them. They go and steal what they want. They go and steal food. They go and steal clothes. They steal whatever they feel like doing because no one's going to arrest them and no one's going to do anything. And that will be happening in communities all over this country as well. So it's, when you have 30, 40, 50 men parachuted into a small community. They've got nothing to do but hang around the streets during the day. We had a film here the other night on GBNews where there was 50 or 60 of them waiting for a chemist to open so they could go and get drugs. I mean, you see that in your high street on a Monday. It's just not what you want.
There is a question about whether or not they should be allowed to work. And if their asylum claim has not been sorted out for a year, they can work in a shortage occupation. The problem about that, and this is one of the recommendations from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, the problem about working is that would then give them a stake in the country. And if you do that and then throw them out, it makes it more difficult to throw them out.
But people are sitting at home when they know how much we're paying to look after these people who come here illegally. Sitting home, to have the Equality and Human Rights Commission say we're not doing enough for them. It really is a smack.
They're merely reflecting what the United Nations say, that there are certain things that the UN says we should be doing which we're not doing. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting we do them.
On that point, because I just want to mention two words, Dolly Parton, very briefly.
There's an amazing story in the Telegraph today. Says Dolly's she wrote a final song and it's called My Place in History, and it's not going to be released until she would have been 100 years old, which is 2046. Now, She actually said recently, she just said it's a shame because it's a really good song. And we might not be alive. Well,
No,
we
probably
would.
won't be.
Should we call 9 to 100?
We're not going to get to hear it. Dolly Parton.
Good on
Indeed.
her. It'll be a bestseller.
Well, yes.
It's a long time to wait. Well, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Thank you both and good morning to you. 11:30, the headlines. 2 British children are among the 33 people from the UK missing after deadly flash floods near the Nepal-Tibet border. Entire villages, roads and bridges have been washed away by the force of the water. Police say more than 270 bodies have now been recovered and more than 1,000 people are still missing. Here, the number of asylum seekers being housed in UK hotels has fallen by half in a year to just over 16,000. But the figures also show 38,000 people detected arriving through illegal routes in the year to June. Small boats accounted for 88% of them. Russia has issued a warning this morning it could strike UK military targets if Ukraine uses British missiles to attack Russian territory. Moscow's accused Britain of playing with fire after the UK said Kyiv would be allowed access to classified technology to produce Storm Shadow missiles. An aunt and her 7-year-old niece have been named as the 2 people killed in a house fire near Middlesbrough yesterday. Natalie MacDonald and Valentina Foster died in the blaze. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder. And 2 of PC Andrew Harper's killers will be blocked from early release and kept in prison. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole were due to be released next year under the current rules. But reports say ministers will now change the law so some manslaughter offenders are no longer eligible. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup with the news at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Mark and Emily. They're here in the studio. What treats do you have in store for us today?
Well, it's a massive news day for us, isn't it, with these statistics coming out?
More migrant misery, I'm afraid. While you might think it's a good thing that the government are telling us that there are only 16,000 asylum seekers in hotel accommodation now, what we have instead are record numbers of asylum seekers who are in dispersed accommodation around the country. More than 73,000 effectively on a street near you.
We're also seeing, when it comes to legal migration, a record number of migrants now applying to settle in the UK with indefinite leave to remain, settlement status. It's at a 16-year high. So these are foreign nationals rushing to try and get their status solidified in this country, which will then give them access to benefits and everything else that comes with British citizenship before Shabana Mahmood changes those rules. If she does indeed change those rules. So there's a lot going on with these statistics. Also, Eritrea is the #1 country from which small boats migrants are coming from, which I think is interesting considering the state of that country.
Yeah, there'll be quite a few Eritreans, I would imagine, on the hundreds that have arrived into English waters, UK waters today so far. Horrific conditions, actually, out in the Channel. Torrential rain, thunderstorms, and they're coming. I think they caught the authorities by surprise.
Yeah, it must be dreadful out
150
there.
so far into Dover. There's a third boatload has just arrived as we speak into
And we know
Dover
how
Harbour.
big they are now.
Yeah,
It's hold 7 people, now it's 100 plus. We're also going to be talking about Middlesbrough. Because another house has been rammed into by a car, reports today. We're going to be talking about, what is going on in that town. Is there a huge problem of gang violence?
Yeah.
Is there an underclass of people who are making things very dangerous indeed? We're going to be speaking to someone who's from there.
Very good stuff.
Mark, Emily, good stuff. Well, that's coming up at midday. But up next on Britain's Newsroom...
The amount of young people out of work drops to just under 1 million as the Work and Pension Secretary, Pat McFadden, says young Brits are not to blame. Oh, Secretary of State, who is then?
You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We have seen outbreaks of heavy and thundery rain moving north through the day so far, and that will continue into the afternoon. Showers breaking out around that, but also some bright spells. Here, the area of low pressure to the southwest responsible for the thundery rain, sending a weather system northwards and effectively producing some very heavy rainfall and some frequent lightning in this zone from North Wales into parts of northern England, North Midlands, leaving East Anglia by the afternoon. To the south of that, still some lively showers around, but also some bright spells and feeling warm and humid where the sun comes out, mid to high 20s in places. To the north, a little fresher. Again, a few showers for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but the far north and northwest of Scotland generally dry with plenty of blue skies as we end the day. And with those blue skies in place, we go into a clear evening here with temperatures falling away. A lot of cloud, though, for parts of central, eastern and southern Scotland with some showers. Northern Ireland seeing some heavy downpours arriving into the evening, but this band of heavy thundery rain continues marching north across northern England with further thundery showers affecting parts of Wales, the Midlands and one or two towards the southwest. There's another system that may well emerge from parts of France to affect parts of East Anglia and the southeast. There's some uncertainty on the track of this system, but if it affects the southeast of England, expect again heavy, if not torrential, thundery rain at times overnight. A mild and in some places muggy night to come. Plenty of showery rain around then to begin things on Friday. We've got this system moving into the North Sea, and then we've got further showers across northern and western parts of the country. One or two downpours popping up in between. Some sunshine, especially towards the southeast, where it's a warm but not quite as muggy day compared with recent days.
Your views. Just to be clear, my viewers are frustrated. Your voice. Lots of you guys getting in touch. Your perspective. Before these two start fisticuffs. Your issues. What is the official party line? Your concerns. Do you agree with that? Your show. Are you keeping up? Good.
I'm so excited to be back. This Tuesday at 6 p.m. Jubes & Co. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 20 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, just under 1 million young people in the UK are not in education, employment or training. We call them NEETs. That is according to official data released from the Office for National Statistics today.
Well, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, says that young Brits are not to blame. He spoke to GB News earlier.
But the difference now compared to a few years ago is that hope is on the way and help is on the way through the investment that we're making into work experience, youth apprenticeships and indeed, in the end, paid subsidised work for the long-term young unemployed.
Well, let's speak to the Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice, Joe Shalom. Joe, good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. Now, we've just seen the latest figures. The total number of NEETs, of young people not in education, employment or training, is slightly down, but still hovering near the 1 million mark. How do you explain this enormous number of NEETs?
Well, it is an enormous number, and at the CSJ we speak to these young people all the time, indeed the charities that are helping them on their often treacherous path into work. And there's been a number of reasons that have brought us to this situation that we're in. It's about 200,000, I should say, higher than just 5 years ago or so. And look, the best way for me to describe this, I think an investor once said, show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome. And all of the incentives have been set in the wrong direction. It costs a third more in real terms to hire a young person than it did just 3 years ago. We've seen an enormous inflow of low-skilled labour from outside the European Union over the last 5 years, which has really increased the competition for a lot of those entry-level roles that would have once gone to school leavers. And we also have a welfare system now that is providing the incentive for young people to, instead of taking their steps into work, stepping into the often the very hard grip of the welfare system. So we've got to unpick all of these incentives and make sure they're pointing in the right direction.
But Joe, let's focus in on the competition from immigrants, because I think that's something that's often overlooked. Your own data found that, as you said, for every one young Brit taken on since 2020, 27 non-EU migrants. Do you think that now that the rules on work visas and so-called skills occupations have been tightened up, that actually in a few years' time we will see the situation improve of its own accord?
Look, I think that that some welcome steps have been taken here in terms of reducing the flow. I mean, I should say that a lot of this is about the wider routes into the country, and indeed conversions of different visa types into others, coming in as dependents or in as students. And that will undoubtedly have long-lasting consequences for the shape of the labour market. A lot of employers are, been quite pleased at the flow of labour. But this has to be looked at in the round, and where we have rising costs for employers as well, it's really becoming harder and harder to justify the risk, and it is a risk, in taking on a young person compared to someone maybe a little bit older, maybe more likely to want to do those kinds of jobs that many just aren't up to doing these days.
Well, thank you so much, Joe Shalom, Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice, for joining us this morning. Andrew, I was just looking at the figures, and for the last 3 or 4 years, there's always been a drop between Q1 and Q2.
It's seasonal.
Yes, exactly, because in January to March, people have finished their Christmas jobs, so I'm not necessarily sure there's an improvement.
But the figures at Vermilion are staggering blights.
They really are. Absolutely. Well, the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has reacted to those devastating floods in Nepal as 33 British tourists are still missing. Take a listen to what Andy Burnham said.
What is your reaction to what's happened there, and what is the UK doing to help not just Nepal but also UK citizens who've been caught up in that?
Yes, these are such distressing scenes coming out of Nepal, and we feel for the people there and everything that they're going through at this moment in time. Such devastation of communities, and already, sadly it seems, such huge loss of life. In the past, Nepal has been there for Britain in our hour of need, and we will be there for Nepal in its hour of need right now. So the immediate offer that the Foreign Secretary has relayed to the Nepalese government is an offer of first responders, search and rescue support. Britain excels in this, and we're there and we're ready to be deployed. Obviously it's a matter for the Nepalese government, but that is available. Financial support has been put on the table as well. Of course, British nationals missing as well, and we need to support that search and rescue effort. We're also redeploying Foreign and Commonwealth Office staff from the wider region into Kathmandu, so that there is a 24/7 consular support for British nationals in the country, but of course their families back here at home who are obviously going through some really difficult moments right now. So a comprehensive package of support has been put forward, but we'll continue to work closely with our colleagues in the Nepalese government over the coming hours and days, and obviously we all hope and pray for everybody affected by these devastating events.
Thank you. That's the cool.
Well, there's plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom this morning.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The weather's a bit more mixed across parts of Europe as well as in the UK. Intense thunderstorms across some central areas of Europe. Wetter weather affecting the west as well into parts of Portugal and Spain. That's thanks to low pressure being close by. Temperatures close to average here, but it's for southern areas of Italy towards the Mediterranean where the heat wave is ongoing. Temperatures in the high 30s, low 40s across parts of the Mediterranean. It will tend to cool off a little bit as we head towards the weekend, but remains dry and sunny. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The 19th century opera composer Richard Wagner has been accused of virulent anti-Semitism and of inspiring Adolf Hitler. What is the truth in those accusations? A new book painstakingly researches what Wagner wrote and said and what he didn't write and say.
I was really guided to the title of my book by an article by Dominic Lawson on the occasion of Wagner's 200th birthday. It argued that we should go on listening to Wagner, but the headline was Hitler's favourite composer was a monster. And various facts were alleged in support of this, that Wagner believed in the German master race, that his views influenced Hitler.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
What is rosé wine? How does it get that colour?
So the colour is from the red grapes. It's made with either white or red grapes, and it's left to macerate or steep, so you get a little bit of that red grape colour, but not so much that it's a red wine.
It's called The Pale Rosé by Sacha Lichine. Where does this come from?
This is from Provence. So this is the sort of sibling, little sister of a very famous rosé. And so they're making the same thing, but I find it sort of lighter, easier to drink, more fruity, and I think I prefer it. So it's delicious, really.
Oh, that is deeply delicious. Very drinkable, isn't it?
It is.
You could go on all afternoon with that.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Royal Navy was the most powerful navy in the world at that time. That was really the bigger ships, the sort of capital ships they're called. When it came to small ships, we really weren't. And especially minesweepers, there was something like 30 sweepers to protect 20,000 miles of coastline. So Churchill, as First Lord of the Admiralty, realised quickly something needed to be done, and he mobilised what became known as the Royal Naval Patrol Service, rather a dry name. But he requisitioned 200 trawlers, deep-sea trawlers from Grimsby, Hull, all those big sort of fishing ports, and their crews. And they were fish holes were turned into mess decks. Fishing nets were removed, replaced by sweeping gear.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, it's the last week of the summer holidays. Lots of school children not looking forward to going back to school. But GB News' Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie is going on a tour of Britain in the run-up to the bank holiday weekend. Well, I hope your camper van is that smart and that speedy. Dougie, where are you today?
It's definitely not that smart and that speedy. It took about 4 hours getting down from Clonran last night, and we arrived here in Blackpool this morning. Yes, we are in Blackpool. What a place. Everything in Blackpool. You have a tower, you have Ferris wheels, you have even an upside-down house, and, of course, the iconic Pleasure Beach behind us. And it is a massive attraction for Blackpool, but most of all in Blackpool, we have families. How are you doing? Where are you from?
We're from Doncaster.
And when do you leave?
We're leaving today. We've been here for 2 days.
Just 2 days?
Just 2 days, but we've done a lot in them 2 days.
And where were you before that?
We've just come back from Spain, Portaventura in Spain. We were doing some theme parks in Spain.
So you're grabbing a last-minute few days before the kids, this one in particular, goes back to school.
Yes.
How much do you like Blackpool?
I love it. It's amazing.
And tell us a bit about, you do stats and stuff, etc. What is this roller coaster behind us? Is it the largest in the UK?
Well, it's called the big one. It's 235 foot, and it's the second biggest in the UK.
And who's the biggest?
Hyperia, located at Thorpe Park, that's 236 foot. Beats it by 1 foot.
Yes. So why do you bring the kids back to Blackpool?
It reminds me of my childhood, really. I wanted them to see what I used to see when I used to come here. But yeah, no, just like it.
And has it changed much in all those years?
No, not at all, no. No, still exactly as it were, really.
And do you think, for a short break, Blackpool is the place to be?
I think it's a lot of fun. You always find something to do, so yeah, good.
Yeah, people say it's a bit tacky, it's everything else, but if you know what you're getting.
It's exactly that, but we quite like it. It's a lot of fun, so yeah, we enjoy it.
Yeah. Absolutely perfect. I used to bring my children here back in the day to see the illuminations, etc. Stayed in a well-known holiday park out the road with a motorhome, sometimes a touring caravan, and it was fantastic. And today we are meeting families along the way. We're going to try and blag our way into that massive park over there and see if we can get a few goes on the rides there. But yeah, Blackpool's something for everyone. The only thing I will say is they are anti-motorhome. We arrived in here nearly midnight last night. All the streets have permits on them, and all the public car parks have height restrictions purposely built in so as you can't get there and park there. Something to look at for Blackpool Council.
Well, I imagine those people who live in Blackpool will not be applying for our Great British Giveaway in that way. Dougie there in front of the gin house, so I'm sure he's going to be having a fun lunch. Thank you so much, Dougie.
A nice ice cream followed by a gin.
Sounds idyllic, apart from the rain. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll both be back on Monday.
Good. See you then.
Yes, we'll be taking a close look at those immigration stats that show the number of asylum seekers in hotels has fallen, but the upshot of that is many more. 73,000 are now in dispersed accommodation. In other words, in a house on a street near you.
And is gang violence getting out of control in the town of Middlesbrough? We'll speak to the former mayor, who's very concerned indeed that after this horrific collision on the A66, violence, tit-for-tat violence, is out of control.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will move northwards throughout today. We're bringing a risk of thunderstorms to parts of Wales and England. Drier though further north, but we do have a weather warning out through much of today, particularly for parts of North Wales into central areas of England where the rain may last quite a while, bringing a risk of some surface water flooding when we get a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. There's also a chance of some heavy downpours, bringing a risk of thunderstorms across more southern areas into this afternoon. But for Northern Ireland and Scotland, it's going to be a dry and bright day, particularly for more northwestern areas of these areas. Temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s here, so a very warm day indeed. It will feel humid as well into this evening once again. It's not until this weekend where we start to lose that humidity and warmth that you may have felt over the past few days. But a fine end to Thursday to come across more northwestern areas of Scotland with shelter from the easterly wind. A bit more in the way of cloud across more northeastern areas of Scotland, northeastern England, seeing some of that heavy rain into this evening. A continued chance of heavy downpours into this evening as well across parts of Wales and central England. We could also see some heavy downpours across the southeast coast through the early hours of Friday. So a risk of some very heavy rain, but also some drier weather. You can see some drier gaps in the weather overnight tonight, and that will bring more cloud as well. Temperatures still on the high side overnight in the mid to high teens. We'll still feel quite humid to start the day on Friday, but fresher air is moving in for Friday from the north and west, and that will bring quite a fine day for parts of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere, though, across the UK, it's going to be a bit of a mixed day, a risk of showers, a chance of some heavy